We are in Parashat Vayeshev. We're going to be reading from the Zohar, from the version Matok Midvash, page Kuf Ayin Tet, 179a, Kuf Ayin Tet Aleph. And we already concluded the journey of Yaakov. He went to Haran, out of Haran. Now finally he's sitting quietly in the land of his fathers, Yitzchak and Yaakov. Yitzchak already died last week. And, he finally thought things calm down, and right away Yosef gets stolen, kidnapped, and sold, and so forth. So, I don't know if we're going to get all the way to Yosef, even though this parasha is amazing stuff in the Zohar. But let's start in the beginning, and then we'll see how we can squeeze in the week some other juicy stuff, especially when it comes to Yosef and the whole thing with the robe. Very interesting insights about this robe and where it came from and what it is and so forth, and what does it mean and why Yosef, and so many interesting things. So let's start, and Be'ezrat Hashem we'll see where the week takes us. So the parasha starts with the verse Vayeshev Yaakov be'eretz megurei aviv be'eretz Canaan. Yaakov has settled in the land of his parents, his fathers, Yitzchak and Avram, in the land of Canaan. And the Zohar, as usual, says, in order to explain this verse, let's first explain a different verse. Rabbi Chia patach ve'amar. The Tana Rabbi Chia said, let me explain to you about a different verse, that this will shed some light on this verse. Because at the end of the day, when you're looking in the Torah, there's not one word that was said for vain. So if the Torah said something as simple as Yaakov dwelled or settled in the land of his forefathers, of his fathers, Yitzchak and Abraham, must be something there. I mean, it's not just giving me some historical detail. The verse that Rabbi Chia wants to explain, this is a verse in Tehillim chapter 34, and the verse goes, Rabot ra'ot tzadik umekulam yatzilenu Adonai. What does this verse mean in English? Many evils befall the righteous, but the Lord saves him from them all. Very powerful verse. So he says, Tachazi, come and see. Kama mekatrigin itle levarnash miyom adekut shabrichu yahevbe nishmata litkaima behay alma. Come and see how many prosecutors, how much against is the person from the day that the person is born, when Hashem gives him a soul to exist in this world. How many prosecutions is against this person? Because the soul is the one that will give you good advice. Don't lie, don't cheat, help that person, and that's how you survive in this world. But nevertheless, we have a Yetzer Harah. We learned that last week, that tells you cheat, it's the best way to do business. Lie, because the other person is going to lie to you. Take advantage of this person because he's going to go against you. The Yetzer Harah is trying to give you bad advice. The only way to survive the Yetzer Harah is to listen to the good advice, what the Neshama tells you. Well, Baal Shem Tov explains that there are two chambers in Shemaim. Chamber is not necessarily the right translation, but the word is Heichal. Heichal is kind of a chamber. Although a chamber is something small, and Heichal is not necessarily something that is small. But nevertheless, there's a chamber of Kedusha, Heichalot Kedusha, and a chamber of Tumah, Heichalot Tumah. The analogy that I give is a man sitting in a hospital. He has an IV connected to one hand, another IV connected to the left, to the other hand. Whatever you put in the IV bag, that's what's going to come into the vein. You'll put their antibiotics, minerals, vitamins, whatever it is going to come into the hand. Now, same thing here. I connect myself to two IVs. One IV is impurity and one IV is purity. If I pull energy from that chamber of purity, then my thoughts are pure, my speech is pure, my actions is pure, and so forth. If I direct my energy to the chamber of impurity, then my thoughts will be impure, my speech will be impure, my actions, and so forth. I choose where I get my sustenance. If I want to get tum'ah, impurity, then all I need to do is connect myself to that channel, and all the dirt will come. But nevertheless, if I now sitting in a situation, and like in the cartoons, there's always the angel here and the devil here, and the angel tells you, be nice, help that person, and the devil's like, no, go and lie to him, and so you always have this battle in your mind. So if your voice in your mind is telling you, go and help that person, obviously it's coming from your neshama. And if that person, this voice in your mind tells him, no, go ahead and hurt that person, and obviously it's coming from the Yetzer Harah. So he says, how many mekatrigim, how many prosecutors do we have from the second that Hashem gives us a soul? The kevan, the nafik barnash le'avira de alma miyad, is daman le'ishtatfa bahade, Yetzer Harah kama deitmar. The second that the person goes out to the air of the world, right away, you don't even take your first breath, right away the Yetzer Harah gets attached to you, as we have already learned. Dichtiv, it says, Lefetach chatat rovetz. That's what it says in the book of Bereshit, chapter 4, that in the evil dwells in the entrance. A person just comes out to the air of the world, didn't even take his first breath, right away the Yetzer Harah attaches himself to the body. And even in the tumot, there are different types of impurity. The worst of all is tumat met. There's impurity of nida, when a woman has her cycle. There's impurity of leprosy, of tzara. There's impurity of keri, of sperm. There's many different types of impurity, and each one has a different severity. The most severe is tumat met. This is av avot tuma. The father of all impurities is the impurity of a dead corpse. And all of us, everybody in this planet has tumat met. There's no one person in the world right now that doesn't have tumat met, impurity of death. Why? Because we don't have Bet HaMikdash, and we don't have para aduma, we don't have a red heifer. The red heifer, they burn the red heifer, they take the ashes, they mix it in mei chatat, they sprinkle the water, and you remove this impurity. We all have impurity, tumat met. What we talked about then with the Nazir, why some people think in our generation somebody is not allowed to be a Nazir, a monk. A monk is not I shouldn't say a monk, a Nazir, person that perishes from wine and many other things. So some opinion says, in our generation nobody can, because a Nazir cannot touch a dead corpse and cannot be exposed to anything dead. So if a person already has on him the tumat met, how can he take on himself the oath? This is one opinion, it's not the halakha. But nevertheless, we all have this impurity of dead. You touch a dead corpse, that's it, you have this impurity.
The same with just going past a dead animal is the same?
Anything. We the second that the baby comes out to the air of the world and the doctor touches the baby, that's it, tumat met, right on the spot. There's not one person alive now that doesn't have tumat met. That's why the first, probably, there's an argument in the sources, but probably the first sacrifice that Mashiach is going to do is the red heifer. Why? Because he has to bring with him Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron HaKohen are coming with Mashiach. And he's going to come here in Tzfat, go down to our next door neighbors and start waking up a few of the souls. Not us, some other souls. The Ari HaKadosh, probably Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and a few others. And then they're going to go to Yerushalayim, and probably the first sacrifice they're going to do is the red heifer. And nobody knows how to do it. Moshe knows how to do it. Moshe and Aaron, they don't know how to do it. So probably also Elazar HaKohen will have to come with them. So nevertheless, we don't know exactly the technical part, but probably that's going to be one of the first sacrifices. Why? They take the red heifer, they burn it, they already found a few red heifers. The Machon HaMikdash, they found one in New Jersey and one in Oklahoma, and they say one of them is already in Israel. But nevertheless, we know that we have already a red heifer. And they couldn't find one for decades. Obviously, this is another one of the many signs that Mashiach is at the doorstep. But nevertheless, once they do that, they sprinkle all over the people who are impure. That's why the prophet Yeshaya says, "Ve'et ruach hatumah avir min haaretz," and the spirit of impurity I will remove from the land. And we're all going to suddenly wake up. Everybody's going to start hugging each other and kissing each other. And I love you. I'm sorry I trashed you all over the city. So I always gave the analogy, very few people can relate with, but many years ago there was a movie called The Ghostbusters. Who are you going to call? The Ghostbusters. So if you remember, I think it was Ghostbusters number 2, there was a scene when they're taking Dan Aykroyd down in the subways, and he goes into the river of slime. And he sees a river, and it's like the river of slime. And when he falls into the river, when he comes out, he's violent, and he's kicking and hitting and cursing and pushing. And then they wash him down, and he starts kissing them and loving them. And I love you, and I'm sorry. This is a perfect analogy that we are soaked in this slime, so we can hate each other, and we resent each other, and we are violent and physically, spiritually, emotionally, verbally. But Mashiach's going to come, just imagine, going to sprinkle this water on us suddenly. We're going to be nice people. No more anger, no more jealousy. We're going to love each other. So this is the Ruach Tum'ah. That's why we have anger and depression and sin and resentment and so forth, because we have this Tumat Met on us. But nevertheless, going back to what we said, it says in the book of Bereshit, chapter 4, verse 7, Lapetach chatat chovetz. The sin, the evil, dwells in the entrance. What's the entrance? The womb. Now, you know the famous midrash that the baby, while it's in the womb, there's an angel, sits above the angel with a candle and teaches the baby the entire Torah. So if you read the entire midrash, you will see that the second that the baby comes out, it says that the angel hits the baby on the lip right over here and makes him forget all the Torah. This is of course the Malach HaMavet, the angel of death. And where do we get the knowledge that it's Bemet Malach HaMavet? And because it says Malach, it doesn't say Malach HaMavet. How do we know that it's Malach HaMavet? Because what comes after the womb? How do you write womb in Hebrew? Rechem. What comes right after Rechem? So what's the letter after Reish? Shin. What's the letter after Chet? Tet. What's the letter after Mem? Nun. What do you get? Satan. Satan is the Samech Mem. So what's after the womb? Satan. He hits you on your mouth and he makes you forget. Wow. That's why when a person dies, moments before the person leaves the world, who do you think greets the person? Malach HaMavet. What do you think is going to greet you there? Only Malach HaMavet greets you. The only one that don't see Malach HaMavet is a Tzaddik Gamur that don't see Malach HaMavet. We all see Malach HaMavet. You better prepare for the encounter. This is not a nice encounter that you just give him a little hug. But nevertheless, we're all going to meet him. Now, it all depends how he's going to take care of you, because it says that how does a Tzaddik die? The Shekhinah comes to take the soul of the Tzaddik, and it removes the soul, it says like a hair out of a cup of milk. No pain, no sorrow. Can you imagine the Shekhinah coming to take the soul out? That's a tzaddik. If a person is a good person, the majority of these actions are good, but they're also not such good actions, then comes an angel and slaughters the person like we slaughter an animal, right away cutting the veshet and the air pipe together, that there's not going to be any pain, like you slaughter an animal, and it takes out the soul. This is called shchita kshera, a kosher slaughtering. Now why do we do that to the animals? So the animals will not feel any pain. The animal, if the shchita is kosher, then the animal doesn't feel any pain. But if a person has bad actions, comes the Malach HaMavet im sakin pguma, with a knife that has blemishes on it, and he slaughters the person like a butcher. You can imagine just the pain that Malach HaMavet pulls the soul out of the body. So that's already some thoughts to think, how do I want to be butchered? But nevertheless, the Satan, the devil, is the one who stands outside. I don't think you're going to be somehow getting rid of him. There's no way of getting rid of him. He's coming there. He's Malach HaMavet, the angel of death. Nevertheless, you want to have a lot of power around you, and that the death is not going to be so painful. But nevertheless, the verse in the book of Bereshit, what does it mean? Lepetach daltei beten, to the door of the womb of the stomach. Beten imo, to the womb of the mother. Miyad rovetzes lo Yetzer Harah. The Yetzer Harah is standing there. This is one explanation that I gave not too long ago. Somebody in English, they don't have these words, but in Hebrew, if you know, when a woman goes into labor, how do you say it in Hebrew? Do you know? It's called tzirei leida. And in English, it just calls birth pain or whatever, or labor. In Hebrew, the words are on the dot. It says in Hebrew, tzirei leida. Tzir is a hinge. Why is it called tzirei leida? Because it says that the womb, the baby is held in the womb with two daleds. And they're this shape. They're not one next to the other. And the second that it's ready to open, the daled one opens like a hinge, and then the baby can come out. So that's why in Hebrew, the words in Hebrew, they have meaning behind it. Ask a doctor, a midwife, when the woman is giving birth, it's called tzirei leida. Nevertheless, here it says also, there's a door. What is it? The door of the stomach of the mother. The Yetzer Harah is already waiting there. Like, come out, just come out. Can you imagine how the baby's like, I'm not coming out. Oh, no. I'm staying right here. So, but nevertheless, nobody stayed inside, ever. So the Yetzer Harah stands in the entrance, and right away when the baby comes out, Yetzer Harah gets attached to him and he's participating in your growth. Now he comes and continues and he says, come and see that this is really like that. That the Yetzer Harah is there since you are a little boy or girl.
So it doesn't get inside the womb.
The Yetzer Harah is not in the womb. The baby in the womb is protected. That's why the babies are fine there, and there's an angel there teaching them Torah. There's no mortgage, there's no electricity bill, there's no worries, there's no Lashon Hara in the stomach, there's nothing. Just sit there with the Torah. And the Yetzer Harah is waiting. You know, you ever saw on the pond we have outside how the cats are sitting there? They're just sitting there waiting for a fish to make a mistake. Sometimes we can do a National Geographic there. And the cats, they sit there for hours. They're just waiting for the first stupid fish to come up and to grab him. But nevertheless, that's the Yetzer Harah. He's waiting outside. So like a bully. And he's just waiting for you to come out. So he says,
the Yetzer Harah is in the mother, but not in the
Yetzer Harah is outside of the mother. Nevertheless, how do we see that the Yetzer Harah comes to you right when you were born? Where do we see that? Have you noticed that animals, from the second they're born, they have their instincts. Right from when they're born. Animals learn how to walk within a few minutes. They don't take like us a year or two, and then school, and they right away, it can be a matter of seconds or a matter of minutes that they have their natural instincts. And the second that they're born, they know how to attack, they know how to protect themselves. We don't. So animals have the instinct right from when they wake up, when they are born. And they know right away to run away from fire or from all sorts of dangerous things. Take like a 2-year-old boy or child, they walk into fire, they'll go into stairs, and they have it's not that they don't have any fear, they don't have any da'at. So they can't see. Okay, doctors will say they don't have the proportions to see depth and stairs. They just don't know. There's no da'at. They don't get the da'at yet. So I had some of my kids just walk into all sorts of dangerous things, fall down the stairs and so forth. But animals, on the other hand, right away they have their instincts. Uvarnash, and a human being, Mia da'ate le'ara magar mego nura. And the person, a baby that is born, will throw himself into a fire. Baby has no fear. They don't understand anything. Saying, in other words, that the child doesn't have the sechel, the da'at, the intellect, to be aware of certain things. A child will go right away and start playing with a vicious dog without thinking that the dog can bark him or so forth. Begin the Yetzer Harah sharei begave. Why? Because the Yetzer Harah is there. There's nothing else there. The Yetzer Harah is there. Umiyad aste le'archa bisha. And right away the Yetzer Harah is going to manipulate the way that you go the wrong way. That it will go down the path of evil. And we also have explained, we explained it in the Midrashim, Dichtiv tov yeled misken v'chacham mimelech zaken u'chsil. There's a very famous verse in the book of Kohelet. It's always hard for me to pronounce it in English. Eschatologics. Yeah, don't ask me to say it again. You know what I mean, Kohelet. But nevertheless, there's a very famous verse in Kohelet that it says, Tov yeled misken, better a poor and wise child, michacham mimelech zaken v'chasil, from an old and foolish king that who no longer knows to receive admonition. That's the translation of the verse. Better to have a child poor and wise than an old and foolish king. So he says here, we already explained in the Midrashim of that verse, Asher lo yada lizaher od, that this person doesn't know how to be careful, meaning the boy. Tov yeled is a good boy, or better to be the boy or the child. Dahu Yetzer Tov. Who's this boy that it's talking about? That's the Yetzer Tov. And that's why he's called a boy, a child, because he's small compared to the Yetzer Harah. Dehu yeled miyomin ze'erinime devarnash, that he's like a child which is very few days with a person. The Yetzer Harah already has 13 years advantage on the child. Because we know that only when the person is 13 years old, then he gets his Yetzer Tov. So the Yetzer Harah is there for 13 years. Imagine what the how do you call it, the not the residency, he's there for 13 years, he has a lot of advantage over the Yetzer Tov. The Yetzer Tov is like a little kid. Now, and he's called a misken. A misken is poor, not poor in money, but rather a poor child. Why? Because most people, they go with the advice of the Yetzer Harah. Now, what is it better? But better to be a poor and wise child. Mimelech zaken uchsil. Who's this melech? Melech is a king. Zaken is old. Ksil is foolish. Who's this king? Dahu Yetzer Harah. This is talking about the Yetzer Harah. The Ihu Ikrei Melech. He's called a melech, a king. Veshalet be'alma, because he controls the world. He controls human beings in the world. Veshalit be'alma al bnei nasha. This Yetzer Harah controls us in this world. Now, why is it called old and foolish? Zaken uksil. The Ihu Zaken, he is old. Vadai kama deukmo. He is old. How we already have explained. Dechad ityalid barnash ve'nafik la'avira de'alma Ihu. When the person is born, he goes out to the air of the world, right away, is damani medevarnash. Right away, he comes and gets attached to him. The Yetzer Harah to the person. That's why he's called a king, because he controls human beings, and old, because he's already there for 13 years, and ksil, a fool. Why a fool? He says here, the fool, he doesn't really explain why a fool. Who's the fool? The one who listens? Or the one who says? Right? So we know king because he controls us. And don't think for 1 second he's not controlling you. He's controlling you, you don't even notice how much he's controlling you. He has you wrapped around his finger. The fact that he's now working not on full blast is because we're lucky. If the Yetzer Harah gets permission from above and they turn the volume up, the Yetzer Harah crushes us within a second. You can't even fight more in front of the Yetzer Harah. The one who was able to do that is Yaakov, and a few others maybe. We can't fight the Yetzer Harah. We have to beg to Hashem, have mercy on me, that I don't have to deal with this guy. Look what we're reading in the morning in the Birkot HaShachar. Most people read Birkot HaShachar, the morning prayers, in the speed of an F-16. Read it once a week, slowly, and look at the words, you'll see what wisdom. Any problem that you have in your life, just pray for it in the morning in Birkot HaShachar, you'll see what wisdom our sages have put and compiled in 2 pages. ותצילני מיצר הרע, ומחבר רע, ומשכן רע, מפגע רע, ומלשון הרע. Look what we're saying in the morning. Say it with kavanah. I can guarantee to you that your day is going to look completely different. Most people, the Birkot HaShachar, they say, autopilot on running outside of the house. So take it to the test. Take these 2 pages, the morning prayers, with the right intention, with the right focus and understanding the words, you'll see your day will be completely different. But nevertheless, so it says here that Melech is a king, he controls the world. Zaken, old, because he precedes the Yetzer Harah, the Yetzer Tov in 13 years. But Ksil is a fool. So who are you calling a fool? Are you calling the Yetzer Harah the fool, or are you calling me the fool? I'm the fool that I even listen to him. So he says here, Hine et Shem Ksil lo mefaresh. The name Ksil, fool, it doesn't explain. Ki kol atzato atzat sachlut. Because all of the advice that the Yetzer Harah gives you is foolish. Sachlut is foolish. It's like going to a bad investor that tells you, invest your money here, invest your money here. Why are you telling me that? It's like somebody goes and tells you, buy property. Not too long ago I heard about some individual did some fraud and he sold property, but and the advertisement was property with ocean view. And when the people found out where's the property, it was from the ocean looking to the other side. It was all like one big hoax. So, but the joke was a property with ocean view. Yeah, it was, and they sold them property parts in the ocean. So the Yetzer Harah gives you the worst advice. Do this, do that. K'mo shekatuv, as it says, asher no'alnu v'asher chatanu. When we have listened to the Yetzer Harah and it caused us to sin. And now what does the Midrash say? Famous Midrash. אין אדם חוטא, a person will not sin, אלא אם כן נכנס בו רוח שטות. Unless a spirit of folly or foolishness will enter him and that will cause him to sin. Now he continues and he says, אשר לא ידע להיזהר עוד, this is in the verse, in Kohelet, that he doesn't know how to be careful, saying, להזהיר לא כתיב. It should have said להזהיר, to warn, rather than להיזהר, to be careful. שהיה משמע, makes much more sense, שאינו יודע להזהיר אחרים שיטיבו דרכיהם, that he doesn't know how to warn another person, don't listen to this nonsense. How many times you look at a person and the Yetzer Harah is leading them somewhere and you're saying, where is this Yetzer Harah taking you? Don't you see that he's taking you into a pit? אלא להיזהר, rather you have to be careful, it says. Meaning, שאינו יודע להיזהר הוא בעצמו, that I don't know how to be careful. I usually listen to the Yetzer Harah. And you know what, the Yetzer Harah, he works in a very tricky way. He comes to you in two different ways. First, he's going to tell you the Yetzer Harah, he diminishes the severity of the action. When you're about to sin, the Yetzer Harah tells me, you know, it's not that bad. Many people do it. You want to do something, the Yetzer Harah will convince you that it's not such a bad thing. We just learned last week about Lashon Hara and what it means and what happens. And we concluded, the Rambam, Maimonides says that there are three sins that a person, the nifra'im mimeno ba'olam hazeh, he gets punished in this world, ve'en lo chelek la'olam haba, and he loses olam haba. Gilui arayot, forbidden relations, bloodshed, shpichut damin, ve'avodah zara, and idol worship. Three sins that he will get punished in this world and doesn't have a world to come. And then Rambam says, ve'lashon hara keneged kulam. Lashon hara is worse than all three of them together. So a person talks Lashon Hara, they nifra'im mimeno, they get punished in this world, and he said goodbye to his olam haba. Doesn't matter how many mitzvot he has. The mitzvot will get donated to somebody, and he goes out of the world, and en lo chelek l'olam haba. Excuse me?
He's telling two people he spoke about. He spoke Lashon Hara about. They get his mitzvot.
Yeah, that's exactly the thing. The person that speaks Lashon Hara, and he en lo chelek l'olam haba, he gets removed out of the world to come. All his mitzvot are taken and given to the one he spoke Lashon Hara about. Yeah. I mean, I said donated, I didn't want it to be easy on the words. But yeah, the one who speaks Lashon Hara, all the merits that person did for 80 years go to the one he spoke about. So it's kind of worth it to be speaking Lashon Hara about. Ooh, yeah, a lot of residuals you get there. But nevertheless, so there was a girl over Shabbat that was here, and she grew up in an observant family. And for whatever reason, personal reason, she resents the Torah, and she doesn't want to perform the mitzvot, and she, in a very severe way got burned. And so now she walks with pants. So her parents and people from her community tell her, you're going to go to trousers. So yeah, for the UK crowd. So her parents and her community are telling her, you're going to go to hell because you walk with pants. So she came to me and asked me, am I really going to hell because I walk with pants? So I said, take on one hand an observant woman who covers her hair, and she's dressed from top to bottom, and she prays every day, and does a lot of mitzvot, and gives charity, and does a lot of good things. But she has some type of a problem, and she can't shut her mouth. And all day long she says Lashon Hara. And then you have you on the other side. Just press the button. And on the other hand, you have you that is honest, courteous, speaks truth, nice, and wears pants. Who do you think is going to go to Gehenom? You with your pants, or that woman with the head covering that speaks Lashon Hara all day long? So do you think Hashem can stand that woman? Who cares if she's observant? Who's giving you this nonsense that you're going to hell because you're wearing pants? Now if you ask him if you're allowed to wear pants, you're not allowed to wear pants. The Torah says clearly a woman should not wear clothes of a man. It has nothing to do with tzniut even. Because some women most women unfortunately, go with dresses. They're so tight you can see even the logo of the emblem on the underwear, how tight it is. So what did you do with your dress? So the pants has nothing to do with tzniut. The pants is lo tilvash gever malbush isha, v'lo tilvash isha malbush gever. A woman cannot put on herself a garment of a man. And in society, men wear pants. End of story. Excuse me?
Men used to wear gowns.
Yeah. So, but nevertheless, we go what now society is accepted. So nevertheless, I told her that you asking me if it's okay to wear pants. I'm telling you not to wear pants. But you asking who's going to go to Gehenom? Well, you think Hashem is impressed by the beard and the yarmulke and the tzitzit and running to shul? Hashem knows inside what's going on. So don't worry, there are many people who are going to go to Gehenom. There's going to be a traffic jam in the entrance of Gehenom. Don't worry, you're not going to be the first one. But the point is that the Yetzer Harah will always diminish the severity of the sin. He's going to come and tell you, it's not that bad. It's okay. Everybody does that. And the Yetzer Harah knows how to manipulate the situation that you're thinking that you're actually doing something good instead of a sin. You're warning people. You're warning the community. You have to do it in the name of the Torah. So I told you already now with all these demonstrations with the soldiers, with the religious people that don't want to go to the army. So we're not going to get into that sugya, but nevertheless, the fact that they're going out to the street and demonstrating violently, you think that's in the name of the Torah? Their leaders are telling them, go and do it in the name of the Torah? You are doing the biggest chilul Hashem ever. Going out to the street and violently protesting. You think you're doing it in the name of the Torah? Like these people on Shabbat that are stoning cars? Whoever, I mean, they're in, some people when they come and visit on Shabbat, they tell me, is that okay to drive here on Shabbat? I don't want to be stoned. In some places in Yerushalayim, you will be stoned if you drive on Shabbat. Now, where is that when Torah tells that it's okay? You know that the stone is muktzeh. You can't even pick up the stone. Why would you even throw it? So the leaders are saying, you're doing it in the name of the Torah, in the honor of Shabbat. No, you're not. You're desecrating the Shabbat and you're desecrating the name of Hashem. So the Yetzer Harah knows how to manipulate to convince you, no, what you're doing is fine. Oh, it's not that bad. You're such a good Jew. Look, you have a yarmulke. It's okay, Hashem will forgive you. So the Yetzer Harah tricks you by telling you the sin is not that severe. The Yetzer Harah is not going to come and tell you when you're about to say Lashon Hara, listen, you're about to lose your Olam Haba, my friend. You think the Yetzer Harah is going to tell you that? He's going to tell you, no, the person that you're warning everybody, it's okay. The second thing that the Yetzer Harah is going to convince you is that he comes and tells you, he diminishes your power. And he tells you, who are you kidding? You are going to end up sinning anyway. So do it today, finish with it. Why to put a struggle?
You're too weak to resist.
Exactly, I'm going to break you anyways, just a matter of a day or two. Anyways, you're going to go back into the bar, into the casino, into the other places. So do it today, finish with it, enjoy it right now. Who are you kidding? Anyways, it's just a matter of time before I'm going to break you. So the Yetzer Harah is attacking you from two places, and you know who's the fool? You. Why you listen to him? Why you listen to this fool? You taking his advice? This advice will take you to Gehenom. That's what the advice will do to you. So he says here that we don't know how to be careful. Asher lo yada lizaher. I don't know how to be careful because the Yetzer Harah machti et bnei adam gam hu yaved imem. I don't understand that when I do a sin, this is what sometimes a lot of people don't understand. He says here something very interesting. Let's read it again and I'll explain it. He says here about lehizaher, to be careful. She'eno yodea lizaher hu be'atzmo. He doesn't know to be careful himself. Saying in other words, she'eno choshesh. He's not afraid. She'al yedei she'machti bnei adam. That by me making other people sin, gam hu ya'abed imem. You also lose. This is another problem when we're talking about Lashon Hara. I talked with some individual a few days ago. And I told him, listen, what are you doing? What are you doing with the damage, with the junk that's coming out of your mouth? I told him, don't you understand that if I go down, you go down? We're all in the same boat, my friend. You put me down, you go down with me. You have to be, this is like the mind frame of a Taliban terrorist. I'm taking you down with me. You don't understand we're all here together? If I'm successful, you're successful. If I fall down, you fall down with me. So, and I didn't understand what I'm trying to tell him. I told him, you don't understand. You think I care what you say? Doesn't matter right now who it's directed to, but you bringing somebody down, you're taking yourself down with him. You have to be a complete idiot to do that. There's a midrash in the Rabbi Shimon explains, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the famous metaphor, the famous parable of a ship. And one guy is in the bottom of the ship, he wants some fresh air, he starts drilling a hole in the wall. They're telling him, what are you doing? Well, I want some fresh air. Are you out of your mind? Then the water is going to come into the cabin. Mind your own business, it's my cabin. Yeah, but if your cabin gets full of water, we all go down. So that's the thing, is what people don't necessarily understand. They don't know that even sometimes I want to make you sin, it's going to drag me with you right after that. Why? Begin the ihuksil, since he is a fool and he doesn't have the da'at to observe and to see, wait a minute, what's going to be the result? As we know, we're going to read it down the line, I think it's in the next page, where he says, Shlomo Melech says, "Hachacham einav berosho." A smart person, his eyes are in his head. If you're smart, you open your eyes and you see. What's going to be the result of what I'm doing? You know, there's another smart verse that it says, "Vezu hachacham," who's a wise person? Haroeh et hanolad, who sees what's going to be birthed out of the situation. Very easy to throw a punch. It's much harder to think, wait a minute, what's going to be the reaction of my reaction? What's going to be the reaction, or how it will take to what I'm going to say? If you think about it 2 seconds and you say, come to the conclusion, my reaction is going to cause a disaster, then it causes you, okay, I don't want to. So that's why he keeps calling him a fool, because a fool doesn't think too much. This is like a mafia style. I'm not going to think right now what's going to be the reaction. Let me first kill you and then we'll negotiate. Nevertheless, so he says here, "Ve'aleh amar Shlomo alav hashalom," and for that, Shlomo Melech said, "Ve'hachsil b'choshech olech." This is another verse in Kohelet. You say it in English, I say Kohelet. This is in chapter 2, where he says, the fool walks in darkness. Why? What does it mean, darkness? It doesn't mean that he only walks out at night. Rather, choshech haklipot. He goes in the darkness of the klipa. The klipa is darkening the world, and the person is walking in a path that he's only making himself suffer. עד שאפילו כשמאבד עצמו אינו חושש. To a point that even if you lose yourself completely, you don't worry. דהר מיסוספיתא. דחושך כאתיה. Because I don't know how you say it the right way. Susfita means psolet. Psolet is the trash, the junk, the remaining, the excrement. This is psolet. But psolet, excrement, no, I wouldn't say excrement. But psolet is what?
Residue.
How? Stubble?
Stubble.
Stubble. No, I don't think it's stubble. Psolet is residue? One of these, no, definitely not impurity. But psolet is more a thing like residue and waste and what's left over. But nevertheless, in a negative way, because you can have good leftovers. You go to a good Chinese restaurant, the leftovers is very good. So depends on the restaurant. Yeah, exactly. Here's a perfect example how psolet can be also positive. I wouldn't say psolet, but with Moshe Rabbeinu, when he was carving the second sets of the tablets, it was from a very precious stone. They call it sapphire, even though it's not sapphire, it's sapphire. We talked about it today in the morning, a very interesting thing, because a very interesting class was in the morning. You can watch it online, it's already online, about the weekly parasha. And you should watch it because, again, another very powerful message. And there's a very great question. This is a very powerful class for all men, because Yosef HaTzadik is our hero, that he was for 22 years held himself not to fail with any woman. And the wife of Potiphar, she was like a Miss Universe, and she was seducing him on a daily basis. And he was a bunker. Nothing. That's why he's called Yosef HaTzadik. But nevertheless, it says that when she seduced him to a point, he was almost about to sin. And then he sees a vision of a face of his father, and I gave the explanation and the source that it's talking about that he saw Adam HaRishon. This can be found in the Talmud in Tractate Shabbat, talking about a story about a certain Tana, that his name is Rabbi Bana. Rabbi Bana was known to be the person who used to go and mark graves. So the Kohanim will not step on graves. So the story says in the Talmud, Tractate Shabbat, I believe it's page 39. If not, I can look at the source if you want to see the story exactly. This Rabbi Bana used to go and mark graves, and finally he got to Hebron. Then he went to Marat HaMachpelah, and he started marking the graves of our forefathers. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to Marat HaMachpelah, but what you see, that's not the grave. The graves are very, very low. You don't see the graves. That's why Kohanim can go there. But nevertheless, he went and he marked around the grave of Sarah and Abraham. then he marked around Yitzchak and Rivka, then he marked around Yaakov and Leah, and then he went into the cave. He wants to see Adam HaRishon. And a heavenly force stops him and tells him, you cannot enter. You don't have to mark anything here. Here you cannot enter. And why? Because you can't see the face of Adam HaRishon. And when there was a question, why I can't see the face of Adam HaRishon? The answer was that the face of Yaakov is exactly like the face of Adam HaRishon. And you already saw a face of Yaakov, you don't have to see Adam HaRishon. So when Yosef saw a vision, a dukan of his father, he actually saw the face of Adam HaRishon. And then what scared Yosef away, because he understood that if he sins right now, he's arousing the sin of Adam HaRishon. Chetz Hadat, Etz Hadat. Now, the sin of Adam HaRishon was eating from the tree of knowledge, but we explained that many times. There's a very powerful book, highly recommended for you to read, even though it's a very difficult book to learn. Maybe we should learn it. It's called Megalei Amukot, the revealing of the depth. Megalei Amukot was written by Rabbi Natan Shapiro about 500 years ago, one of the most powerful books of Kabbalah that we have. 252 explanations about one verse in the Torah. That's the whole book. Evra na be'artzecha. Moshe Rabbeinu in Parashat Vayeshev was negotiating with Hashem, please, let me in. I'm Moshe Rabbeinu. I don't have any merits. Let me cross. I want to see the land. No, you're not going in. 252 perushim, explanations on this verse. One of the explanations, I said that so many times, I don't want to take from our time, but he explains there that the sin of Adam HaRishon, it from one sin of eating from the tree of knowledge broke into three sins. Idol worship, forbidden relations, and bloodshed. The three sins that a person loses his olam haba, the three sins that destroy the Bet HaMikdash. But how did Adam HaRishon do that? So he explains there the fact that Adam HaRishon listened to the Nachash. That's idol worship. Well, you don't believe me? I'm the God. Not me, chas v'shalom. Hashem is saying, you're listening to another entity? That's idol worship. How do you bring bloodshed? Because with the sin, what did he bring to the world? Death. So bloodshed. And forbidden relations, look what happened from the sin. First of all, he divorced Chava, who was then called Chaya. But nevertheless, he brought the forbidden relations into the world. The same place in this book in Megalei Amukot, he says that all three forefathers did the rectification for these sins. Avram Avinu did the rectification for Avodah Zarah, for idol worship, by spreading the name of God in the world and converting everybody. Yitzchak, how did he do the rectification? He did rectification for bloodshed. How? When he told Esav, go and get me food from the field, what did he tell him? Shchotli. Slaughter it. Don't kill it. Esav was a butcher. Shoot it in the head. He told him, slaughter for me. By that, when you slaughter, because Esav was a archer. So Yitzchak says, don't go now and shoot me a deer from far away. You go it, you catch it, and you slaughter it. By that, you do a rectification, a tikkun for bloodshed. And Yaakov Avinu did the tikkun, of course, of forbidden relations. Yaakov Avinu, his bed was complete, mitam shlema. We know that Yaakov Avinu, the first time he ever was with a woman, you know how old he was? 84. 84 is when he married Leah. That's the first time, the first drop that ever came out of him was b'kedusha, holy, right away into pregnancy. So Yaakov Avinu did the tikkun of forbidden relations. When I said before that we need to learn about the Yosef, where's Yosef coming in here with the kutonet pasim? Unbelievable insights what the Zohar is saying, because the Nachash, the serpent, took the yud of Chaya and he pulled it into the klipa. I mean, her name was Chaya. Chava, I mean, she's known as Eve, but we call her Chava. Her name was Chaya. And later on, after she sinned too, then the serpent took the yud and it pulled it down into the klipa, so it became a Chava. More than that, the serpent came to her. Adam HaRishon right away gave her a get. Right away, get out of here. He dumped her. 130 years, Adam and Chava were not married. Shet was only born after 130 years. So the Nachash, the serpent, came to Chava and he told her, listen, I looked on your profile on JDate and I saw that you're free, that you're a divorcee with kids. No problem, I'll take a divorcee with kids. So, and he told her, listen, my name, serpent, Nachash in Aramaic is called Chivya. He told her, my name is Chivya, so your name should be Chava. So he changed her name from Chaya to Chava. So later on, the idea of the Yud falling into the Klippa, becoming a Vav, there's an unbelievable in-depth information how the Kutonet Pasim, why are the stripes, where did the stripes come from? This is corresponding to the whole Tikkun. Yosef came to do the ultimate Tikkun, the ultimate rectification. So therefore, Yosef saw the image of Adam HaRishon. Oh, he understood, if I'm now sinning, I'm arousing the chetz of Etz Hadat. And if I'm not sinning, I'm going to do tikkun to the chet Etz Hadat. Yosef Avinu understood, Yosef HaTzadik understood that his action is detrimental for the entire mankind in the universe. So, I don't even know how we got sidetracked here, but I was saying that a person is a ksil, that he says, Shlomo Melech says, ksil b'choshech olech, the fool walks in darkness, because the klipa is darkness, and it's coming to harm you. Then that's how I got to that. Sorry. From the psolet, completely, see the excitement sometimes goes, you don't know where the excitement takes you. I was explaining in this class today, how come Yosef had the merit that he got a vision of the face of his father? Why didn't Yehuda get that vision? Down the line, we're going to read in a few chapters that Yehuda goes and sins with Tamar. How come he didn't get a vision? How come the rest of the tribes didn't get a vision before they threw Yosef in the pit? You know, it says that the Kadosh Baruch Hu has a few sins that he will never forgive. And one of them is the selling of Yosef HaTzadik. He will never forgive on that. Mechirat Yosef HaTzadik. This is, the source to that is in the book of Amos. The prophet Amos, where he says, how do we know that Yosef is called Yosef HaTzadik? There are only two people in the entire Tanakh that are called Tzadik. Noach and Yosef. Noach, it says in the Torah, Vish Tzadik haya bedorotav, he was a righteous man in his generation. Where does it say Yosef HaTzadik? It doesn't say Yosef HaTzadik, but everybody knows Yosef HaTzadik. Many times I've said, all of our leaders, they have an adjective, some type of a definition. Moshe Rabbeinu, Avram Avinu, Aaron HaKohen, Shmuel HaNavi, David HaMelech, and the list goes on. How come Yosef gets a tzaddik? So the prophet Amos says that there are a few sins that the Kadosh Baruch Hu will never forgive, and one of them is Mechirat Yosef HaTzadik. The selling of Yosef, who was the child, the righteous child. That's where we know that Yosef is called a tzaddik. But nevertheless, so why he had the merit that he got the vision? I want a vision too every time I want to sin. I also want to get a vision. Why do you think we hang pictures of righteous people on our walls? You go to many people to their houses, it's a big question, I saw your eyes. Some people say, isn't it tselem, lamid tselem, to put an image of a human being in your house? This is a whole long class to start with. But nevertheless, when you put a picture of a tzaddik in your home, there's not a tselem of a tzaddik, because a tzaddik is a tselem of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, to start with, the image of Hashem. But why do we put the images of the tzaddikim? You have to see the person and to say, oh, that's how I'm supposed to be. This is how I am, and that's how I'm supposed to be. But nevertheless, why did Yosef get such a merit? The Talmud says there was an ulterior motive with Yosef. Why? Because later on, when the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, he wore the choshen, the breastplate. Now on the breastplate were 12 stones. If you remember last week, we learned that when Yaakov put the stones around the head, these are not some gravel stones, a stone like this. Rather, it was the 12 stones that went into the breastplate. Now there are two opinions in the Talmud how it was. There was the 12 stones, and they had a lot of letters on it. And they would ask the Urim V'Tumim questions, and it would, like Simon says, you remember that game when we were kids? So it would light up according to the letters, and they would get their answer. There's a disagreement in the Talmud. How are the letters organized? One opinion says that it says the names of all the forefathers, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and all the names of the tribes. That's one opinion. The other opinion says, no, it says the names of the stones, the actual names of the stones. The Talmud says the reason why Yosef HaTzadik had this merit, there was an ulterior motive there, because Yosef is the only one from all the forefathers and the tribes that has the letter Samech. Now if Yosef would sin, Yosef will go out of the breastplate and they wouldn't have a Samech. So therefore, there was an ulterior motive, he has to stay in the breastplate. The other opinion says, but if it would be the names of the stones, there's only one stone that has a Samech, it's called Sapir. And that's how we got to that, because Sapir is not sapphire. Sapphire is what they have now, this blue stone. This is not the Sapir in the Torah. So nevertheless, I already explained that Noach had a stone in the ark. Remember we spoke about it? How did Noach lit up the ark? A whole year, 3 levels. How did he see there? What, he had a generator? So it says that he had a window on the top. The commentary says it wasn't a window. Rather it was a stone. He had a stone on the top of the ark and it lit up the entire ark, and this stone is called Sapir. That's why, because Sapir means to enlight, that's why we also call the Sfirot, the emanation Sfirot. People get mistaken that Sfirot is counting. It has nothing to do with counting, why we call them the 10 emanations. It's because it's from Lashon Sapir, to enlight. That's why it's called emanation, and not 10 countings, or 10 digits. But nevertheless, this Sapir that we're talking about is not sapphire. But he was saying, very smart, when Moshe Rabbeinu was carving the second sets of the tablets, fell all sorts of, when you carve something, comes the dust. So that's what Moshe Rabbeinu took, the chips, and he became very wealthy. Hashem told him, just keep the change, it's fine, you can take it. So this is psolet, but this is not the word that I'm trying to find here, because that's something good. Alevai alai. I wish I to get some of that psolet. But here it's talking about psolet, the residue or the waste or the junk coming in a negative way. And it says here, Ki psolet hagvura nikret choshech. The residue, the remaining of gvura is called darkness. And we know the klipa comes from that side. Velet le nehora le'almin. And it doesn't have any light forever. That psolet will never have any light. And this is of course the klipa. Therefore, it's able to darken the face of any type of creation. How? By bringing them to sin. So if you're smart, then you want to run away from that. Any type of advice of the Yetzer Harah, that's his agenda. If I can have it, you can't have it. If I in the darkness, you're in the darkness too. I'm taking you with me. So you have to be very aware from this type of advice from the Yetzer Harah, and also to be very aware when people come and tell you that. Just today, literally a minute before I came here, somebody walks into our home, and I knew that the talk that we had last Shabbat, it will take a matter of minutes before the echo of it will scatter around. Of course, now, what was going on there? So somebody walks into our house and says, you're going to be very proud of me. And I'm like, why am I going to be proud of you? But just because somebody called me, and the funny thing, my wife was like, who? She was like, I'm not saying. But somebody called me and asked, why did Rabbi Anava got upset on Shabbat and who he was talking about? And she was like, I'm not talking anything. It's none of your business, it's none of my business. And she left. And she says, you're going to be very proud of me, because I turned around. And I was like, I am very proud of you. Kol hakavod. Kol hakavod. You told the person off and you made a U-turn. This is a perfect example. Well, don't take advice from somebody. Somebody comes and tells you, whoa, what was going on there? Sorry to tell you, you are not anchoring me now to the depth of the ocean with your junk. Sorry to tell you, you go talk to somebody else. I'm nothing. I'm not here. I wasn't even here. Don't even look at me. So here we have 2 ways how to explain this, that the Melech Ksil v'Zaken. One way, the Yetzer Harah constantly is feeding you. Do this, say that, do this, do that action. You have to be a fool to believe him. You have to take a moment, think, and say, what's going to be the reaction of this act that I'm going to do? Oh, the reaction or the result is going to be negative? Sorry to tell you, I'm not taking your advice. You're taking me straight into the depth of the world. And on the other hand, you have people who come and tell that, hey, let's do this and that. And now I'm giving constantly an advice of, example of Lashon Hara, but how many times somebody comes and tells you, hey, let's go and rob this place. Let's go and cheat here and there. Come with me to do this and that. So I'm sure you had a few friends that they come to convince you, let's do this and that. You have to be a complete fool to believe or to go and follow what that person says. Mezal Hashem will continue tomorrow what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says about this verse. And later on, we're going to see where he's taking us with that. But the point to understand from that I'm constantly in a battle. Now, if I know my enemy, then I know how to deal with my enemy. You know, a famous quote that says, you save me from my friends, my enemies, I know how to deal with them. So you have to know who's your enemy. And when you know who's your enemy and what's the tactics, then you are careful. You don't believe everything that is said, and you don't let yourself fall into any trap. So what he's starting to tell us here, that I have to be very aware that constantly I'm under attack. Every second of the day I'm under attack. And coming from many different directions. You have to develop the system. That's what we're going to learn about a little bit in the next couple of days. How do I develop the system to filter what's coming at me, to understand that's an attack right now? I'm under attack. It's to be an alarm going, you're under attack. Catch yourself before you're going to fall. Why? Because that's the agenda of the Yetzer Harah. The Yetzer Harah is to darken the world and to darken you and to darken your actions, and you have the ability to either fight it and either fall for it. And needless to say, the Torah is coming to give you many different tools how to fight it. And if you're smart and you know how to fight it, then you can pass the world with minimum damage. That's what we want to try to do in this world. I want to cross this corridor with as minimum damage that I can, as less damage that I can do in this world. Of course, we want to lighten the world, bring holiness and light to the world and do many good things. But nevertheless, a great question that many people ask when it comes to reincarnations, isn't it a worse solution to come here again? Now I have the opportunity to sin again. So the Arizal is addressing it in the gates of reincarnation in depth. But yeah, you're right. You do have the danger. You have an opportunity to do a rectification and to gain, like you have in the poker game. You can either take the whole thing and be the winner, or you lose it all. That's already in your hands. Who are you going to choose to listen? רבי חנניה בן הקשה אומר, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל, לפיכך הרבה להם תורה ומצוות שנאמר, אדוני חפץ למען צדקו יגדיל תורה ויאדיר.